Are we? Where are we? Oh, why leads are killing your business. Why are they killing my business? Are they? Let's talk about that. Hey, everyone. This is funny. This is weird. The up and the down and the lights. You are a rock star. Can I get a sound check? No, just kidding. My name is Matthew. People call me Growdy. I will answer to just about anything. Like, hey, you asshole, Google guy, like anything. How are you doing? No, wait. How are you fucking doing? Yeah, is that better? Repeatable bit. I was talking to somebody recently and they said, like, where do the ideas for your presentations come from? And I said, well, almost all of them come from a meeting or a conversation I've had. So it's like I go somewhere and I even called out that it's usually either something amazing, like somebody says something so amazing, I'm like, I need to build a presentation around that, or somebody says something that's so atrocious, I'm like, I need to build a presentation around that. So it's usually one or the other, but inevitably it starts with a conversation. And so this is a collection of conversations all wrapped up into a series of slides. I love this venue. I'm very excited that we're doing this here. I spent a lot of money here in my ill-spent youth. I was drunk here a lot. It didn't look like this, but because there used to be like a DJ booth over here that I loitered at a lot. And so I built a graph. I told Corinne I was going to build a graph, very googly of me, to explain like my attendance at the El Macombo over time. But it kind of didn't work. It's better to talk about it than to actually show the graph. But what I did include and what I pulled out of the archives was this photo of me from 1999. Are you ready? Ready? So this is in the back corner over here, the El Macombo. Yeah, can you tell who I am? Can you spot? Yeah. So this is Terry. This is my friend Terry. This is Jody. Jody and I dated for a while. That's Sarah in the background. I kind of wanted to date her, but never happened. And this is me with my fire red hair, and that's Lindy Booth wearing a wig. Lindy is actually a fairly famous Canadian actress who was incognito that night. The thing about this photo that's kind of funny is that, as I said, Jody and I, it's complete Melrose Place. It's a complete like soap opera because Jody and I dated. I met Terry because he was in love with Jody. All three of us were in love with Lindy. And then Jody and I lived in the same apartment building for a period of time. So it was very Melrose Place. Terry had a job here. His job was when all of the actual DJs were too drunk to hit play on the CD player, he was supposed to hit play. That was his job. Like there was like Saturday nights, a musical night called Blow Up. Two DJs in the beginning, guys named Bangers and Mash. It was like a Britpop thing. And then the main event was this guy, Davey Love, and Davey would often not even show up for his bit, and Trevor and Ryan would often get too drunk to continue to operate the CD player. So Terry's job was he got paid $100 and free drinks all night for him and for us and for me. And his job was just to hit play on the CD player because they weren't even really DJing. They just had 5 discs that they played over and over and over again. So anyway, that's my El Macombo experience. I think because of the rock and roll theme, I wanted to include that and also kind of show you what my youth was like. It was different. What am I doing now? So I used to work in the Google automotive team. I was there for a long time. I was kind of, some people like regarded me as the face of Google at automotive events, especially anything that might be dealer related. So I'm doing a bunch of things now. One is I'm teaching at the Automotive Business School at Georgian College. I'm advising some startups, which I was doing before, but now it's taken a bit more center stage. I have a podcast called the Change Optimist Podcast. Last year, somebody from 360 was like, "Can I sign up for your podcasts, plural?" I'm like, I don't have one. Like, I don't have one podcast. There isn't plural. There still isn't plural, but there is one now. And change optimism is a thing I kind of layered into presentations over the years. So I thought that was appropriate. I do some public speaking still, getting called to different events. Do a bunch of consulting, mostly in automotive, and I write a newsletter. You can find it at growdy.wtf, growdy.whatthefuck. It's a what the fuck is going on in automotive. So that's a newsletter that I publish every week that you might find interesting and entertaining. This is the newsletter, and I really only show this because this is an email I received from a dealer friend of mine. I noticed a trend, right, in his Mitch. Yeah, do you know Mitch? Yeah. So Mitch comments, right, the other electric vehicle startups more fucked up than you thought was one of his favorite headlines, and also the unpopular opinion, EV sales are not down, so shut the fuck up about it. I was like, Mitch, there's a real trend in the headlines you like. I think I know what it is. Like, I think I know what that is. So even now when I'm writing headlines, I think about Mitch and I try to put more fucks in there because I know he's going to enjoy that. But also I have this notion of, and I don't do it all the time, but I'm kind of collecting these ideas that I call the unpopular opinions, where I'm stressing a point to make a point, or I'm being a little contrarian, or people are just wrong. Like, I think people are just wrong and I want to call them out on it. So today we're going to talk about how leads are destroying your business. Leads are destroying your business. Before we get into that, I want to talk about what I call the immutable facts. The immutable facts haven't changed in years. This is what nearly 10 years of working at Google has taught me, and that's that, and stuff that we repeated all the time. It made it hard to tell an interesting story because the data was always the fucking same every year, so you'd have to fish through it to find something interesting to say. But for at least the last 6 or 7 years, these things are not new, right? So this is all of the data. I'm gonna save you about 45 minutes to an hour of your life because you won't have to go to Google Think Auto this year because it's gonna say exactly the same thing, actually. And that is that the journey is digital. 90% has been, is, doesn't matter how you clock it, based on time, based on sources used, based on interaction points, 90% digital. Top sources used are search and video. I don't even work there. I don't give a fuck how much search or video you buy anymore, but it's still true. Number one, number two, search and video. That 75%, 3/4 of vehicle discovery happens digitally. Used to be on the road. Like, it used to be number one source of how people found a vehicle was they saw it, and now there's something between them and the road, right? Like, you're staring at your fucking phone all the time. So there's like something in between you and the phone, and now you discover that car digitally. 1 or 2 dealership visits. This number like leans either 1.5 or 2, depending on season, basically, but it's basically 1 or 2. It's coin toss, so 1 or 2 dealership visits. 1 or 2 test drives, same math. I either need 1 or I need a safety school. I need that second test drive to feel comfortable I'm making the right choice. And that about half of people walk out of the dealership frustrated, even after they buy. Like, not just the people who have the coin toss and go, I need to go to my safety school, I need to go to that other dealership because I want a better experience. Even the ones who buy walk out not enjoying the experience. And there's an old data point, like an old digital dealer data point where they're like 90% of consumers think going to the dealership is a hassle. So it's not surprising that more than half of people don't like it even after they've been there. So ask any dealership, what is your, we got some folk in the room, what is your marketing goal? What do you want out of your marketing dollars? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller? Anyone? No? Chris, I'll call you out. What do you want? Yeah. Well, that's different. Convert is a whole other can of worms. But yes, you want to hit the generate leads button. You would like to generate as many fucking leads as you can possibly generate, right? You want the leads. You need the leads. Your salespeople are like, I can't sell. I don't have enough leads. So you turn to the marketing team. You're like, guys, salespeople say, I need more leads. Or can you generate more leads? And they call up 360, like, well, we need more leads. Like, we need more leads. We're having a soft month. It's like, what day is it? We're the 23rd of the month. Where are the fucking leads? It's like Glengarry Glen Ross for people, for those who remember, or those know. I was in a Dealer 20 meeting a long time ago now, back in 2016, and although I learned so much in that meeting, it comes up a lot, the conversations from those 2 days in the prairies. And I was hanging out with Mitch, actually, Mitch Gallant, and organized by David Kane, so it was actually moderated by David Kane, who did a great job. And David had this slide, and every once in a while I email David Kane, and I've recreated it. I didn't use his version of the slide, but I just email him and I say, do you still use this slide? And he says, yes. And I'm like, can you send me the current version of that slide? And it looks a little something like this, because I stare at it and I think, something is wrong. Like from the first moment I saw it in 2016, I was like, something is wrong. I'm like, mechanically, it's right. I'm like, mechanically, it would be ideal if all of the data, we were just talking about this, all of the data should go into the CRM, right? Awesome, right? That is what probably should happen. And then out of what you do in the CRM, you can decide, like, what's my marketing target audience? What kind of tactics am I going to use, right? I come at this still from a very marketing perspective, but it's then how you generate your sales and how you can generate service. And so all the interactions should go in there, and then so there's a bunch of stuff in, there's a bunch of inputs in, and then a bunch of inputs out. Mechanically, perfect. I'm like, but I saw this slide, and I'm like, there's something wrong. I'm like, I don't know what is wrong with it, and I've stared at it for the last 8 years, and maybe 3 years ago it dawned on me what was actually wrong, and maybe I knew all along, and I just thought to myself, it's too obvious that that's what's wrong. I'm not going to give you the answer yet, but we're going to talk about it. There's another problem in this equation, and that is what is a lead? What is a lead? Oh, that's very metaphysical. Like, what is anything? What is life? What is a lead? So Google, I'm still friendly. I'm going for lunch at the Google office next week. I still hang out with my Google friends. I still have a lot of their data. But this is from 2020, and I presented a version of this slide many, many times. I used the lovely new 360 icons that were shared with me to recreate it. But basically, in terms of how people interact with the dealership, and you can argue the fine points of the data, that the majority of people just walk in. The majority of people don't fill out your fucking lead form. Like, the majority of people surprise you effectively. And then after the large group of people who just surprise you, oh, I forgot you're all up there too. The next most popular way to interact with you is on the phone, And I don't know if you count either of those things as leads. Maybe you do. How do you track them? And then after that, it's email, and then other, and for the purposes, again, of stressing a point to make a point, I wrapped up all of the other sources and web form leads into that bucket, into other, right? So that's other, and then messaging, and then chat. And messaging could be social media, WhatsApp, MMS, so messaging, and then chat. Google has not refreshed this data since 2020. So, and in my own work now, I'm working with a couple of different companies to collect data and generate, to basically recreate and get clearer on newer answers to these same questions. And so one of those is this. If we fast forward, oh wait, so other includes web leads. I forgot, there's a build there. Other includes web leads. In 2024, it's very similar. It's a little different. The walk-ins up a bit, right? About the same though. Phone call up a lot, right? Phone call actually went up a lot. And then email stayed about the same. Chat went up. Messaging and other, which again includes your lead forms. And again, we can argue the fine points of the data. So think of it more directionally, went down. So walk-ins and phone calls became more important, and other types drop. Other types drop. What does that suggest to you? I'll tell you what it suggests to me. It suggests to me that we taught people we don't reply. We taught them. By not replying in a timely fashion, we taught them that the web form was useless. Right? If you don't get back to them in a reasonable amount of time, over time, consumers are going to learn that that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Why would I fill out this form if you're not going to get back to me? I'm still waiting for a response from a Toyota store in Owen Sound from 2020. I'm still waiting. I'm still holding out hope that they get back to me at some point. I'd really like a RAV4. I don't drive a RAV4 because they never got back to me. But I'm still waiting for that response. We taught them we don't reply. Let's talk a little bit about the buying experience. And who's never seen me present before? Is there anyone in the room who's never seen me present before? Good, there's some fresh meat. That's great. That's good. So this is, I use this next set of slides a lot. I change it up. I change the graphics. I make it look interesting. So even for the people who've seen it before, it's a little different. And then I try and find some other data points to juice it up, to jack it up a bit. But first, I fucking love this quote, and Brian Benstock many years ago at a Google event said this. He said, that we learned what's best for the customer ends up being what's best for you. And by that, he meant himself. Like, doing what's best for the customer at his dealership, Paragon Honda, largest sales Honda dealership in North America, Honda and Acura. And I warn people, if you track down Brian and you start following him on social media, he will be the only thing you see. Like, he will be at the top of every feed. He's at the top of LinkedIn, the top of Instagram, and either he's bragging about his sales month or he's working out. Like I know a lot about his workout habits. I don't need to know. But anyway, the point is, I don't know anyone else who's necessarily learned this. Like, I don't know another dealer who would be so bold as to say, we learned that doing what's right for our customer is what's right for us. You might think it a bit. You probably don't say it on stage in front of 1,300 people at an automotive event, but Brian does, right? And it's too easy to suck. It's too easy to suck. You don't have to be better, right? You don't have to try harder. The cars sell themselves, right? Or they did for a period of time during COVID. They did sell themselves. They depending on what it is, if it's a fucking Mustang, it probably sells itself, right? If it's a Ferrari, it probably sells itself. Many cars sell themselves. But so it's too easy to suck. It's too easy to suck and still be successful. This is that number again, right? Back 2019, 51% of folk frustrated at dealership. Google has not refreshed this data. So what I like to do to kind of get a better picture of this, to kind of understand, like, is this still the case, is I kind of still go to the source. Somebody asked me, I was in a webinar earlier this week, they're like, is Google still your default search engine? I'm like, yeah, I'm not using Bing. Come on, I'm not using DuckDuckGo. So I go and I just search this phrase, frustrated at dealership Canada. I just search it. I just search it, and I see what comes back, and then I collect it, and I've been collecting it now for a couple of years, and so I have, so you get like Calgary woman frustrated with dealership fiasco, Kia dealership breaks all-in pricing law, secret shopper test, a nightmare, buyer describes purchase of electric vehicle from Surrey dealership, customer says they were sold unsafe vehicle by Ottawa used car dealer. That used to be where this ended. More. Car dealership prices are gouging, customer says survey. Everybody jokes about the used car salesman. They're known to chase deals and move products. So to be told to leave a dealership when you basically are ready to write a check for the car, I still can't get over it. Kia Canada deliberately withholds deliveries. Customer shafted for numbers game. You might want to blame the OEM for that one, but still the customer doesn't know the difference. They don't know the difference. They think that's you. His electric vehicle battery died. 1 year later, he's still waiting for a replacement. Only a plug-in hybrid in the summer. Toyota owner frustrated with recall and lack of cold weather charging. So I don't have to look hard to find other frustrations, right? They're still out there. They're still out there in the wild. I don't even need research to prove it. And then if it happens that you are one of the 50+ percentage of the population that has a vagina, this gets much worse. Like, if you happen to be a woman, this gets much worse. So women are afraid of experiencing, or experience to a greater degree at dealership, pressure, not being taken seriously, or feeling talked down to. What it results in, and we all know this, we all know that this is true, they bring a male human shield to the dealership, right? They bring a male human shield. If I'm a woman buying a car, I'm like, I want to buy a car, brother, husband, cousin, dad, someone. And I said this, a version of this last year, and the number of people who came up to me were like, 100%, that's what I do. I like totally bring my male human shield to the dealership. 89% of women surveyed indicated they preferred to bring someone with them when visiting a car. I'm not sure it's a preference. It feels more like it's required, right? Like, I need to bring a male human shield to be taken seriously at dealership. So when you think about the touch points, and we think back to the Dealer 20 group slide I presented, and you think about the types of communication that, where people interact with a dealership and the way they want to interact with a dealership, where does it fall apart? And we all know this is not news, right? So first I could call and I get a, sales, hold please. Or I get nothing. Or I go straight to voicemail and I don't hear back for a day, right? The phone call falls apart. And even more aggravating to me than that is that probably every dealer in the room and in the country has a call tracking system they're not using. They have a call tracking system. They probably get it for free somewhere through an agency relationship, through a partner relationship, through their DMS, right, with their website provider. They probably have a call tracking solution. 360 has a call tracking solution, and you're probably not using it. You probably forgot you have it. You're not using it as a sales tool. You're not listening to the calls. And then I fill out that web form, and we already know what happens there. I don't get a response. Still waiting for that response from that Toyota store, 2020, December, after I hit a deer. And then at the dealership, it's just not exactly the experience I'm looking for. It's sort of and I'll explain this in a bit, there's like a cognitive dissonance between what the consumer is experiencing when they walk into the dealership, and in more simple forms, it's just not what they want, right? If more than half of the people walk out of the dealership after buying are frustrated, there's something not right there. Your staff probably, and again, especially if I'm a woman, doesn't reflect who I am. I was at an event in January. It was a BMW CPO managers event. And it was the biggest sausage party I think I've ever been to. And what was weird about it was it was lovely because it was January and it was in Punta Cana. But then they had an excursion. We had an excursion where we went out on a catamaran, and it was just 40 dudes standing in the ocean together, in bathing suits. It was the biggest sausage fest I've ever been to. And I brought up a similar point, and they kind of looked around. There was not a single woman in the room, not a single woman from the OEM, not a single woman from any dealership. And then, there's F&I, right? And when we talk about experiences people don't understand or it's I thought I bought the car. Why am I in this room? What is going on right now? And again, I'm painting a very negative picture. I understand that. And not everyone is doing all of these things. But what I'm trying to highlight is that, and this is a very weird Canadian phenomena. In the US, they've addressed this more, I think, than we have. I buy a car on a Monday. I've been squeezed into the F&I office, or maybe I've been given time to think about it. There's maybe the delay in the financing, and then then I get a call from the dealership. I can pick it up Thursday. And again, I think I bought a car. I thought I could drive away more quickly than that. And so when it comes to anything related to time management, scheduling, and don't even get me started on your scheduling for service, we don't appreciate people's time, right? We're not respecting people's time. And so when I think I should be driving away, I'm waiting, and I don't know why I'm waiting. And so in the end, I get my car, and I don't like this. I am a consumer, and that's the cognitive dissonance. And so all of these points, they don't have to all happen any one of these things happen, it creates friction. Friction. And friction, it turns out, is actually very expensive. It turns out there's a lot of research around how expensive friction is. I'm not going to go into that today, but like there is a lot of documented research on the when there is friction in a very tangible way, that costs you sales. And then that costs you a loyal customer. I'm probably never going to own a Toyota, right? Well, my wife will never let me buy a Toyota, let's be clear. And so it means when we think about that 1 or 2 dealerships, 1 or 2 test drives, it's a fucking coin toss. And if you interfere with that in any way, like if there is any amount of friction, if that phone call isn't answered, if that lead isn't responded to, if the salespeople don't reflect who I am, if you're wasting my time, if you're giving me an experience I don't like, I'm not coming back. But then I hear, and I love this trope, I love it a lot, but selling cars is a people business, right? Like selling cars is a people business. And I'm like, if that was true, half your sales staff would be women. If that was true, half of your sales staff would be women. I don't even need data for that. I don't need data to say that. Like, this is not a people business. This is a dealership business. This is a mostly dude, dealership-based business. If it was a people business, you would reflect the people that you are selling to, and that is not what is happening in the wild. And so we go back to this. And so part of the problem, I think, right, and part of the thing that was irritating me about that David Kane slide was not that it was wrong, right? It wasn't that it wasn't technically wrong. It was technically, operationally accurate. Maybe that's how that's an ideal use of a CRM tool. That is probably how things should operate, but that's not the problem. The problem is, and I have this general, things people focus on get done, right? Whatever you focus on is what gets done. And this is the problem with our emphasis and focus on leads, right? It translates into an experience where you have salespeople who are high pressure, who will only work if there are more leads, right? Your marketing is driven to the feeding the funnel of leads to feed your salespeople, which creates an experience people don't want. And that's how leads are destroying your business. We don't think about the lead as a person. No one said this was a person, right? The trope that we used to pull out at Google was like, no human is a tier 2 intender. Like, no human thinks of themselves as like, I am a tier 2 sales opportunity. Please send me to a dealership. Please show me the message that would get me to walk into a dealership now. Like, so we lost the human factor of this. I actually got into an interesting discussion on Monday. I listened in on a call with some folk from Ford, and there was a weird insinuation in the data that was being presented. I wasn't presenting, I was just a fly on the wall. I'm like, there was something in there that sort of said, they identified the digital touch points, and then they identified the IRL, real world touch points, and they kind of were suggesting in some way, the insinuation was that digital wasn't human. Like digital wasn't a human experience. I'm like, well, that's wrong, because there's still a human using it. Like there's still a human on the other end of that computer or that phone. And if you start to think about this through the lens of that isn't a person, then it really shifts how you think about things in either direction, right? If you start considering that that is a person, then it's very different. Then you're focused on that person's needs, not on the fact that they might be a great lead. Right? I think words are very important, and this is a very important distinction that I think shifts everything you might be doing at dealership. Because if you thought about your experience and you thought about your the person coming in, the person who's the 74% of people who just walk in as a person, then you'd answer the goddamn phone. If you thought of them, if your mother's calling, well, you might want to avoid them. You might want to avoid your mother, I don't know. But if somebody important to you is calling, you answer the phone. right? If someone important to you is calling, you answer the phone. I know the phone usage is kind of weird. We all have texting now more. But apparently we don't do that at dealership because we taught them we're not going to reply, right? We taught them they're not going to reply. So if I call, answer the goddamn phone. And if I go to the trouble, Bayshore Toyota, of filling out your lead form on Christmas Day, maybe reply to me. Maybe reply to me. And then think through, and I'll get to this in a bit more, how do we address the cognitive dissonance at dealership? Like, how do we create an experience, and many are, but how do we create a better experience in a way that this is what people want? How do we reflect our consumers in the way we hire and in our sales staff? How do we, adopt a sales process that includes F&I, makes it visible, brings it up, treats it like a fucking product that someone might want to buy, not a thing you're like surprising people with at the end of the journey. There are a few different ways to do that. You could be doing menu selling. You could be, I'm not going to get into the process angle of this, but even I was on a panel out in Calgary earlier this year, and I didn't know this, but one of the dealers on the panel was like, yeah, we just cross-trained all our salespeople. We don't have F&I managers anymore. We have one person who manages the whole transaction. And I know that's hard, and change is difficult, but they're like, it's a better experience, and so we thought we needed to do that. And then, respect people's time. Figure out a way to schedule better, and then you're going to sell more cars, and you're going to sell more cars to women. And they're not going to feel like they need male human shields to walk into your dealership. But none of this is new. Like if you saw my presentation last year, I covered a lot of the same data points. Yes, I did talk about toasters. I made it more fun when I talked about toasters. It might have been less insulting. Maybe. So why would you change? Why would you bother, right? It's too easy to suck. Why would you change? Well, in my newsletter, I have a section, and I dedicate it every week. I call it the Must Know Musk News. And when I get feedback from people in the car industry, they always say, like, why do you include that shit about Elon? Like, why do you do that? I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. And when I get feedback from people who are not in the car industry, they say, my favorite part is that shit about Elon. Like, my favorite part is that shit about, it's like, gossip. And increasingly, Elon feels a little bit like a James Bond villain, right? He's got satellites with space lasers. He can control which governments can use the internet to deploy weapons. Like, it's very strange. And he's leaned into a weird Montreal people, no, I mean, a delightful person from a university in Montreal that has given him this phrase, the mind virus. Like he's leaned into a weird academic, and now he's really repeating a lot of those things again. But, the thing is, do you know who the Tesla buyer is? Do you have any sense who the Tesla buyer is? Because I think, you might get this right, but I think there's some misconceptions here, and it's changed over time because we've gotten past that point of the early adopter phase of electric vehicles, right? It's now we're trying to address the early majority, and we're not doing a very good job of that. In fact, I think industry-wide, especially in North America, we've decided we don't want to do that work. Like we've decided we don't want to address the next group of buyers. We're just going to complain about EVs and hope they go away. Is kind of where we're at with electric vehicles. But I don't think they're going away, and so the Tesla buyer turns out to be mostly male. They're, maybe a little younger than you think. Kind of they lean into the 25 to 34, 34 to 44 demographic. They're most likely Asian. There's have you been to Vancouver recently? Every other car is a Tesla. They make a lot of money. They're affluent. They would otherwise be regarded as luxury buyers, and there's the whole debate is Tesla luxury? Probably not. Maybe if you buy the sedan, but not if you buy anything else. But really their emphasis, like the thing they love is the technology. And they like going fast, right? Like so the attributes, and you might know all of these, the thing that's kind of weird about this now is that they're not overtly environmentally conscious. They're not buying the car to save the planet anymore. They're like, I heard it does 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, right? Like it's fast. It's a smartphone on wheels. It's technology. But that's not the only thing that is driving people to Tesla. You look at this, and what do you see? What is this a photo of? Anyone? It's a photo of a dealership. It's a photo of something that looks an awful lot like a dealership, right? And I think that's the funny thing. It's a very confusing thing about Tesla. Elon says all the time they're not a car company, and then he changes every quarter what they are. Like he's said that they are a robotics company, has come out of his mouth in an earnings call. More recently, he's like, we're an AI and robotics company. They're a very data-centric company, but I'm here to tell you this is not a dealership. This is not a dealership. This is actually, no. It is a very elaborate tablet holder. Very elaborate, very expensive. This does one job. It's the same job you do when you're at home, right? If you go to a showroom, because it's more of a showroom than it is a dealership for Tesla, and you walk in and you want to buy a car, they go, great, and they hand you a tablet. This is a very elaborate tablet holder. That's what it is. It's not a dealership. It doesn't operate like a dealership. Most likely, it doesn't even have a service department. The model that Elon is purporting, the model that Elon thinks will win, is that the best service is no service. It would be better if the cars just don't break down. And it would also be better if you needed service for the things that need to be serviced on a Tesla, if they just came to you. And that's the model they're using, as much as they can. Sometimes you do get in an accident, sometimes other things break down. But for the most part, you don't have to go back to the dealership, showroom, tablet holder for service. They come to you. They swap out your tires in the driveway. They come out to you. They do a firmware upgrade that they couldn't do over the air, right? The best service is no service, and this is a very different way of thinking about it than every other business, right? The showroom is a tablet holder, and the best service is no service. And this is, and yeah, so Tesla's growing over time, and yes, they outsell in North America BMW and or Mercedes. So it's growth, right? So it's clear that there's, people are interested in, they're having a softer couple of months now, aren't a lot of brands. They're not alone in that. But the thing I want to tell you is that, oh yeah, of course, and people forget this or didn't know this, that the Model Y is the best-selling fucking car in the world. I know, it's weird. Even Chris is giving me furrowed eyebrows. People think, and I had a different presentation, I know Neil has seen it, where I actually do like a pop quiz, right? I start the presentation, I'm like, what is the #1 selling car in the world? And I did that with the BMW folk in January. And the answer, when people scratch their heads and they think about it for a moment, they're like, it's a Toyota, right? Like it's something from the Toyota family. And for a long time, it was the Toyota Corolla. The #1 selling vehicle in the world was the Toyota Corolla. But in 2023, the #1 selling vehicle in the world was the Tesla Model Y. And people don't know that somehow. Like, we don't collectively know that. But Tesla is not the threat here. And there's a bunch of reasons why. And I think Elon has kind of shot himself in the foot a little bit right now because a lot of people don't like him. People don't like him, they don't want to buy a Tesla, right? So although they're growing, and although they're a big deal, and although they currently have the #1 selling vehicle in the world, that's not likely to hold in 2024. It may come back in the future, but there are a bunch of reasons why they may not be the problem. The problem is that, as I see it, Tesla built a model, right? They built this model where they're like, it's not a showroom, it's a tablet holder, and it's not service, it's no service. And they've trained a bunch of other companies how to do that, right? So you now have a whole new crop of companies in the US, Rivian, Lucid, Canoe, other startups, some are failing. Startups fail. The nature of startups is they don't survive. But some of them will survive. And they're adopting a very Tesla-like approach, selling direct, building showrooms that are effectively an elaborate tablet holder, and adopting a service model where the best service is no service. But The world has shifted a lot, and I'm not going to talk a lot about this. This is really Neil's game later today, after me. Is that, and it was a great, I don't know if you saw it, there was a great tweet this morning from Michael Dunn, where he said, not only is China the largest car market in the world, it's actually larger than all other markets combined. And so it's not Tesla that's the problem. It's not even Rivian, Lucid, and Canoo that are the problem. It's every other brand you don't know. Every other brand you don't know. You can read BYD, and you might know Geely. Shout out to Volvo in the room, right? You might know some of these brands, you don't know them all. And this is just the top brands. This is by sales, the top, 12 sales brands in China. There are more that are not in this list. And you probably don't know most of those badges, right? So the problem isn't Tesla. The problem is that Tesla has refined a model that other companies are emulating. Not all. Yeah, some are like, no, we still want dealership people, as they enter Europe and take over, as they enter Australia and take over, as they've already taken over other countries, other continents, right? So this wasn't a China deck. I'm not doing a big China deck. We could do that another time. But this is just to say that the problem isn't Tesla. The problem is what everyone has learned from Tesla. And so in that learning, there are no fucking leads. There are no leads. Just sales. Just online sales through a tablet. Whether you do it at home or whether you walk into a very elaborate tablet holder. So my guidance to you is suck less. Right? I've used this many times. It actually came out kind of very naturally. I don't know how. Very natural. It's just like welled up within me at an event that Neil brought me to last year in Halifax. And I took a pause and I almost. It would be great if you could fucking suck less. Like if you could just fucking suck less. And then I thought about it and I'm like, that's really harsh, Crowdy. Like that's almost mean. And I'm not actually mean. I mean, I just like the data. I just tell you the way I see it. And so I did do a variation. But what's funny is no one remembers the variation. Everyone leans in. Like I think I had 20 people walk up to me after that event and they're like, got it, suck less. Like it sticks with people. Suck less. The better version, the more optimistic, because I do count myself as an optimist, version of that is be better. Because that sort of indicates that no matter how good or bad you are, you could still be better. Like if you are doing a bang-up job and you already have, like maybe you are the one dealership in the world where half your salespeople are women. Maybe. Or maybe your phone never gets left unanswered. Maybe. But even if that is true, there's probably some other way you could be better. When I talk about that cognitive dissonance, and I still love this slide, when the experience is not exactly what consumers want. Pardon? What? Was there a murmur? I heard a murmur. I'll take a murmur question. When I think about the cognitive dissonance, my favorite way to describe it, and I've been using this slide for a long time, I pull it out. I sometimes get rid of it, and I try and talk about it a different way, but this is still my favorite. And this is that, like, at the dealership, you have all the parts. You have all the component parts, right? Like that CRM slide was not wrong. It was just the wrong emphasis, wrong focus, wrong priorities. So you have, for instance, in your dealership, you have free coffee. You give coffee to people. You want a coffee. People come in. You want service. You want coffee. You sit them down. They're in the F&A office. This is great. You want coffee. But people have very specific coffee needs. I don't want your fucking coffee. Like, I know what kind of coffee I want. My wife and I buy a very specific coffee we make every morning and drink together. I don't want anyone else's coffee. Maybe I don't drink coffee. Coffee might not be the thing I want, but you have it and you give it away for free and you tell everyone about it. But you also have free Wi-Fi, and you don't tell anyone about that. Right? So you have the component parts, And everyone wants fucking free Wi-Fi. Like, everyone is on their phone. Time on phone is now greater today than it has ever been in history. I want free Wi-Fi, and you never mention it. And so this is just an illustration of, you have the component parts. It's not that everything is wrong. It's not even that leads are wrong. It's just the wrong emphasis. It's the wrong order of ingredients. It's that you can take those ingredients and you can make bread, or you can take those ingredients and you can make glue. Right? That is the problem. That is the thing to be addressed. So, you're like, cool, Growdy, that was a lot. I mean, you didn't swear enough. There was only so many F-bombs. I'm a little disappointed. But what do I do? What do you do? And it's straightforward. Like, again, I don't give a shit how much search or video you buy anymore. Sorry, Google. So there's this guy, John Madoff, Microsoft, super cool dude. And he uses this phrase, like similar to the things that people focus on get done. He said is, people who can focus get things done. People who can prioritize get the right things done. We need to get the right things done. We need to get the right things done. And so I would say some of the right things are prioritize the person, not the lead. Start thinking about the person, not the lead. Address their needs everywhere. Originally, because of my history and DNA, I originally said, address people's needs in marketing. And I was like, no, everywhere. Address people's needs everywhere. Give them the free Wi-Fi. Maybe they want your coffee, right? Figure out F&I. But address people's needs everywhere, because once you shift to thinking about the lead as a person, then it's no longer a lead in business. It is a person and their need. Hire differently. Hire differently. We're going to talk about that a little bit in the panel. I've got a question in the panel today, so this will come up again. But hire differently. Answer the goddamn phone. Could you answer the phone? I feel like I'm talking to my 15-year-old. Could you answer the phone? That'd be great. Answer the goddamn phone, and then respect people's time. Respect people's time. Because when you think about them as a person, and you think about their needs, then their time is more important. Then you think about it differently. So that is it for me. That is how leads are destroying your business, and that's how you might begin to think differently about it.